When we think of ancient Greece, Plato stands out, not as a warrior or ruler, but as a philosopher who shaped the way we think about life's biggest questions. His ideas have echoed through the centuries, influencing not just philosophy but science, politics, and even art. Plato's legacy is woven into the very fabric of Western thought, and his name is still spoken in classrooms and debates around the world. He was also the writer-philosopher who told of the lost civilization of Atlantis, now a staple of science fiction, fantasy, and even superhero stories, but as usual with Plato, for deeper reasons. As a social influencer, he asked, "What is justice? How should we live? What does it mean to be truly wise?" These weren't just idle questions for Plato, they were the foundation for understanding ourselves and the world around us. What makes a good society? How can we create a community where people flourish and live in harmony? Plato believed that by examining these questions, we could build a better world. These questions have become a matter of urgency, some would even say survival today. They're at the heart of modern debates about justice, ethics, and the dream of having a good life. Plato didn't just ask. He invented new ways to explore these ideas, founding the Academy in Athens, the first university in the Western world. There he gathered students and thinkers to discuss, debate, and seek truth together, laying the groundwork for education as we know it. His influence is so deep that philosopher Alfred North Whitehead once said, "All of Western philosophy is just footnotes to Plato." That's how foundational his work remains, even after more than 2,000 years. Plato's legacy is education and critical thought, shaping how we learn and question the world. His dialogues encourage us to think for ourselves, to challenge assumptions, and to seek wisdom rather than just knowledge. And yes, among his most famous stories is Atlantis, a tale not of lost treasure, but of a lost ideal. Through Atlantis, Plato invited us to imagine what a perfect society could look like, and what might happen if we stray from our values. Timely insights indeed. While many see Atlantis as a mystery to solve, Plato used it as a teaching tool, not a historical account. He wanted us to reflect on the dangers of pride, corruption, and forgetting what truly matters. It's as if he foresaw our era's alarming pivot towards political blindness and ignorance. Every story he told, including Atlantis, was crafted to make us reflect on human nature and the societies we build. His writings are an invitation to question, to wonder, and to strive for something greater. Plato, like his teacher Socrates, spoke truth to power without fear. In this video, we'll explore who Plato was, how he taught, and with all due apologies to Aquaman, what he really meant by the story of Atlantis. We'll see why his questions still matter, and how his search for truth continues to inspire us. The real treasure isn't a sunken city, but the wisdom Plato left for us to discover. A legacy that challenges us to dive deeply, explore wisely, and never stop hunting for submerged answers. Plato was born into a wealthy Athenian family during a time of war and political chaos. Witnessing the corruption and failures of Athens deeply shaped his thinking about justice and leadership. The turning point in his life was meeting Socrates, who taught by questioning everything and seeking true wisdom. Socrates' execution by the state left Plato disillusioned with democracy and determined to find a better way to govern. After traveling and learning from other cultures, Plato returned to Athens and founded the Academy. There, he taught for decades, writing dialogues that explored reality, ethics, and politics. His works, featuring Socrates as a central figure, became the foundation of Western philosophy. Plato's Academy also produced Aristotle, ensuring his ideas would influence generations. Through his life and teachings, Plato sought to answer, what makes a just society and how do we educate its leaders? His journey was a quest for wisdom that still offers practical tools for us today. Plato didn't write lectures, he wrote dialogues which included his mentor Socrates, questioning and challenging others. This showcased the Socratic method, which draws out knowledge via questioning, not just compiling information. In his dialogues, Socrates exposes weak ideas, then encourages deeper thinking, making readers active participants. Plato also used allegories, stories with deeper meanings, to explain complex ideas. His allegory of the cave, for example, shows people mistaking shadows for reality, missing the true world of ideas. In this, he foresaw the illusory constructs of the Matrix movies. The story of Atlantis works the same way. It's not a historical account, but a grand allegory about society and morality. Through vivid stories, Plato made philosophy memorable and engaging. Atlantis, like the cave, was designed to make us question our own values and the fate of our societies. Plato's genius was turning philosophy into a living conversation. Plato's Atlantis isn't simply the lost city of legend that so many imagine today. Instead, it's a carefully crafted allegory, told through the voice of the character Critias in his dialogues. Plato used this story not as a historical account, but as a philosophical lesson, inviting his audience to reflect on the deeper meaning behind the myth. According to Plato, Atlantis was a mighty island empire located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. The island was blessed by the gods and founded by Poseidon himself, who shaped its land and people with divine care. Its natural beauty and abundance were legendary, and its people flourished under the watchful eyes of the gods. The Atlanteans were once a people of great virtue, living in harmony, justice, and mutual respect. They valued character and wisdom above all else, placing the good of the community before personal gain. Their society was a model of balance and fairness, admired by all who heard of it. But as generations passed, the divine spark within them began to fade. Greed, ambition, and arrogance slowly crept in, eroding the values that once made Atlantis great. The people became more concerned with wealth and power than with virtue or justice. Then the Atlanteans, once content with their blessings, grew obsessed with conquest and domination. Their leaders turned away from their original ideals, seeking glory and riches at any cost. The society that had once been a beacon of virtue now teetered on the edge of ruin. This moral decay is the true heart of Plato's story. He wanted his readers to see how easily a great civilization could fall when it abandoned living its core values. The tale of Atlantis isn't really about a sunken city lost beneath the waves. It's a warning about how societies lose their way when they forget the importance of virtue, wisdom, and self-restraint. Atlantis's downfall is a timeless warning, reminding us that even the greatest achievements, if built on pride and corruption, can be swept away in an instant. Through the story of Atlantis, Plato illustrates the devastating consequences of moral failure on a grand scale, showing how the fate of a whole civilization can hinge on the choices of its people. The true focus of the story is the shift from virtue to vice, and the inevitable collapse that follows when a society loses its way and casts aside both self-awareness and vital checks and balances. In the end, Atlantis is a mirror for any society tempted by power and excess, urging us to remember that true greatness is built on wisdom, humanity, humility, and virtue. The Atlantis story appears in Plato's dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, and not as history but as a philosophical example. His character Critias claims to tell the true story of a war between ancient virtuous Athens and the mighty empire of Atlantis. This Athens represents Plato's ideal state, just, wise, and harmonious, while Atlantis is its opposite. Plato gives a detailed, unfinished account of Atlantis's wealth, power, and eventual corruption. The abrupt ending, just as Zeus is about to judge Atlantis, suggests Plato's real point. Even the greatest societies will fall if they lose their moral compass. These dialogues use Atlantis to illustrate Plato's political theories, not to record lost history. The lesson is clear. Moral decay, not external enemies, destroys civilizations. Plato's audience understood Atlantis as a cautionary allegory, not a literal tale. The allegorical quality of Atlantis was grasped and utilized in the utopian works of Renaissance writers, such as Francis Bacon's New Atlantis and Utopia by Thomas More. However, there were also 19th-century amateur scholars who misinterpreted Plato's narrative as obscure history, most famously Ignatius L. Donnelly in his Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. With the mystical movements of the 1800s, then the rise of pop pseudoscience in the 20th century, it naturally wasn't long before pyramids, high technology, and even aliens were added to the Atlantis legend. Plato's philosophy centers on the profound link between knowledge and virtue. He believed that truly knowing the good naturally leads to doing the good. For Plato, ignorance is the root of wrongdoing, and wisdom is the path to moral action. The first and best victory is to conquer self, he wrote, emphasizing that our greatest battles are internal, fought within our own minds and hearts. Mastery over one's desires and impulses, Plato argued, is the foundation of a virtuous life. For Plato, a just person, and by extension a just society, is ruled by reason, not by unchecked desires or fleeting passions. He saw reason as the guiding force that brings order both to the individual soul and to the community. Justice, he argued, is inner harmony, each part of the soul and each person in society fulfilling their proper role. When reason, spirit, and desire are balanced, both individuals and societies flourish. Good people do not need laws to act responsibly, he said, while bad people will find a way around the laws. Plato believed that true morality comes from within, not from imposed rules. True justice also, then, comes from character, not just rules. It is a quality of the soul, shaped by education, reflection, and the pursuit of wisdom. Plato warned against societies obsessed with wealth and material gain, believing this led inevitably to corruption, injustice, and decline. He saw the pursuit of virtue as far more important than the pursuit of riches. The measure of a man is what he does with power, a challenge to leaders everywhere, reminding them that true greatness is shown in how one uses authority for the good of all. Education and self-examination were, for Plato, the foundation of a good life and a healthy society. He believed that only through learning and honest reflection can we hope to become just and virtuous. These timeless ideas are the key to understanding the true lesson of Atlantis, a warning and a guide for individuals and societies seeking real justice and lasting harmony. Atlantis was never a lost city waiting to be found, but a tale of unchecked power and moral decay. Plato contrasts two societies, virtuous, disciplined Athens and wealthy, arrogant Atlantis. By having small, just Athens defeat mighty Atlantis, Plato argues that moral strength outweighs material power, and the final destruction of Atlantis by natural disasters is symbolic, a divine verdict on a society that lost its way. For Plato, the lesson is clear. Societies that abandon virtue and justice are doomed, no matter how rich or advanced. Relevant today? Just consider the effects of the arms manufacture and fossil fuel industries, and the looming menace of insane, ongoing nuclear weapons proliferation. Atlantis remains a mirror for any state indulging aggression. The story endures because its warning is universal. Plato's Atlantis stands as a timeless call to put wisdom and justice above ambition. The real disaster is not flood, earthquake, or eruption, but the loss of virtue that will surely lead to greater, more lasting catastrophes, and ultimately to extinction itself. Plato's wisdom offers the chance to reshape our contemporary ideas about justice, leadership, and society. His ethical worldview can guide our expectations concerning leaders and public servants, and his vision of justice as harmony can influence how we build teams, organizations, and communities. Plato's emphasis on education and critical thinking is now more crucial than ever before, as we confront an age of manipulation via misinformation. The Socratic method, questioning and self-examination, is the key to creating healthy democracies. The Atlantis story also warns us about the dangers of unchecked growth and environmental neglect. Today's crises, climate change, elitism, racism, inequality, mirror the hubris that doomed Atlantis. Plato's ancient lessons challenge us to build societies rooted in wisdom, not commerce. Plato used allegory to make philosophy memorable, turning abstract ideas into vivid, thought-provoking narratives so powerful that they even spawned legends. Atlantis was a thought experiment, not a treasure map. This remarkable philosopher's greatest gift was always teaching mankind how to ask the right and often hardest questions. His core advice remained simple but urgent: pursue knowledge, value justice, practice moderation, and serve the common good. Plato warned that no amount of wealth or technology can save a society that loses its moral compass, and peaceful civilization is always a fragile achievement in need of ongoing defense. In an age facing utterly new challenges, his call for reason and justice is more essential than ever. Will we learn to look beyond short-term gains and control the kind of world we are building? Can our society take his story of Atlantis as a mirror, reflecting which paths we will take through the choices we make, the values we embrace? Atlantis may not really lie beneath the waves awaiting discovery, but Plato's wisdom is the true treasure, offering us the chance to build futures worthy of our highest ideals. Which version of the myth of Atlantis have you heard? And what's your take on the wisdom of Plato? Please tell us in the comments section, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to help others take a seat in life class.
Logical Plato's voice was one of many in ancient times pleading for self-awareness on personal and social levels. Check out more mystical takes on the same dilemma in episode 16.